So, 24/7 prayer. How can you participate in this time of praying together? As a church, we are prizing God's presence, and we want to encourage you to start to make room in your diary for God. Often we can pray for 5 minutes here and pray for 5 minutes there, and when we remember, and if we get up early enough, we might squeeze it in before we go off to work or off to study. But what would it look like if you were to start giving time to God in prayer? What's it look like, though, to create room for an hour in your diary? There are a few simple steps that I'd like to walk with you through today so that you can get the most out of your time with God. So first, we'll talk about how you can set up your hour. And second, we'll talk to the different things that you can pray through during your hour. But first, think about setting up. I don't know if you run a calendar or run a schedule, but the most important thing we can do in preparing for this time with God is put it into our diaries. And so we do ask you to sign up on the website so that we know that you're participating in this journey of prayer, and we can see where everyone is praying in the church from a point of view of making sure that every single hour is covered. But also, if you take that booking and mirror it in your diary, you set yourself up for the best chance of success. It's a blocked out time. It's a time that is given to God. And I want to encourage you to make it a time that you can achieve. Now, that might be something you say, I feel like I could do a middle of the night session, or maybe it is in the hour before you get ready to go out for the day, or maybe it's in your lunch hour. But wherever it is, give a time to the Lord. Now, for you, that might be consistently the same every day. My regular time with God begins at 5 a.m. each morning. But maybe you might have your consistent time with Him. Or you might want to join us in a slightly different way of doing this. We also do something called the 4 Watches. And the idea of this is that one of your hours of prayer during the week, you'd pray between 6 a.m. and 12 midday. The next hour of prayer, you'd do between 12 midday and 6 p.m. The next one, you do between 6 p.m. and midnight. And the next one between midnight and 6 a.m. It gives you a bit of variety. Make sure that you're covering one of those watches. And so in the course of the week, you could get 4 different hours of prayer in your time with God. But first, set a date and put a time on it. Decide that you want to give God an hour, not just 5 minutes here and there. Second is to be intentional about the location that you are going to be praying. I would encourage you, if you're going to be doing something in the night hours, to choose a location different than your bedroom. I know too often the temptation to just lie there and pray in bed, and I suddenly find that I'm waking up 5 hours later not having prayed at all. Choose a location where you can go and you can be quiet, or you can be as loud as is possible in your environment, whatever you'd prefer, but it's a location that is given to God in prayer. And it might be that you have a particular chair, or it might be on a particular walk that you do. It might be during your exercise time. It might be a meeting room in the office, but a consistent place where you can go and you set yourself up and you know, this is my time with God. Third, I want to encourage you to prepare to disconnect. You know, sometimes we can have this idea that that time is consecrated to God, but then we leave our mobile phone sitting next to our Bibles, or we leave the door open so people can come and interrupt us. We disconnect intentionally by leaving our devices outside of the room, maybe picking up an old paper Bible. Or if you've got a busy family, letting them know, for the next hour, you are not allowed to disturb me. Go see someone else or sit quietly. And I know that's a little bit of a faith statement if you've got young kids, but let people know that for that time, you're busy, because that time is given to God. And fourth, I want to encourage you to think about some positions of prayer. You know, if you're going to be sitting, for example, for the hour, you want to make sure it's a comfortable chair where you can sit, but it's also not so comfortable, maybe a lazy boy, where you would fall asleep. Or maybe you might be prepared to sit on the grass if you were out and about, or if you were spending time in real intercession, have room to be able to lie down on the floor before God, or be able to stand with your hands lifted. But choose a position or a few positions that you can take during your time of prayer, and make sure you have all that you need to ensure that that's comfortable through that time, so that you can maximize your engagement with God and not get distracted by your levels of comfort. So these are a few simple things you can do to set yourself up for success. Please avoid noisy, busy spaces. Avoid, like I said, your bed or somewhere where you could fall asleep. If there are places where you can be distracted, let people know that they can't distract you during that time. And do whatever you can to protect that time with God. In doing that, setting up those healthy boundaries, you're going to set yourself on a good footing to really meet with God during this time. Follow our next video to find out how you can pray about different things during your prayer time during 24/7.